My son and daughter-in-law have been married for around 7 years. They have 2 kids. All of my children are out of the home and living their lives. My husband and I are still working, and I'll probably retire in 10 to 15 years, around 70. My daughter-in-law and I got along much better before the kids came into the picture. They live 30 minutes away, and she always tries to drop them off. I thought my son was in on this, but no. I set them down, and he had no idea this was happening. I showed him the mini text asking me to babysit, and he was under the impression that I only babysat twice this month, not 16 times. Apparently, she's been dropping them off with me to hang out with people, and my son was under the impression she was taking them with her. I started communicating in a group chat with them, so everyone was on the same page. I only respond to her in the group chat, and if she starts spamming me with texts about it, I throw a screenshot in the group chat and have my son deal with it. We have talked, and it comes down to her wanting her kids to have the same relationship she had with her grandparents. In short, I've explained that I'm still working, and I would not have that relationship. I can't have the kids every other day, just like she had growing up. We agreed to have a grandma's day every 2 weeks, and all was good for about a year. My son is now traveling for work, and she's at it again. The time difference makes it hard to have him shut it down when it happens. I was only home for about an hour when she showed up at my house. She wanted me to babysit when she went shopping. I had enough at this point. I told her, for heaven's sake, I have my own life, and that I will not be the cookie-cutter grandma she wants. I added that if she tries to leave the kids with me from now on without my agreement, I will call the police and state abandonment. She called me a jerk and stormed off. My son called, trying to smooth things over, and said I may have gone too far. Am I the idiot for telling my daughter-in-law I have a life, and I will call the police? Edit. When she kept dropping them off, the kids were infants and toddlers. It really hit off when she was pregnant and got even worse when the second one was born. Not the idiot. It's nice that she had that kind of relationship with her grandparents, but absolutely nothing entitles her to force it on you. Good job on the boundaries. Your son needs to step up here too, though, and get more involved with his own kids. The group text idea was brilliant and is a great way to keep him in the loop. I swear this is such a boomer mentality. Like, my parents got so much support with us kids. We spent weeks at my grandparents', other family members voluntarily babysat regularly. Then I have kids, and anytime I've asked for help, it's a big complaint. I'm talking about like 2 times a year. Everybody sucks. You'd call the cops for your grandkids showing up at the house? Wow, your grandkids should be the biggest priority. Don't worry, she sucks too for all the reasons you mentioned. The daughter-in-law is the one who escalated the situation. When you get to the point that you must threaten somebody with the police, they need to ask themselves what's wrong with their behavior, not the other way around. That's absurd to make you feel like you went too far. If anything, she's offended because there's truth to the fact that she's abandoning her kids. Get her a Ring doorbell and don't answer the door. Use it to greet her and the kids, then tell them you aren't available and that you'll see them on the next pre-planned day together. Your daughter-in-law is obviously struggling with being a mother. I hope she gets some mental health support. She needs it. My wife, 32, and I, 34, male, went to the gym yesterday morning. At some point, my wife, I'll call her Laura, scratched her finger on something. Laura has a history of being selectively sensitive to pain and discomfort. She's a strong and capable woman that I love. But if it's 80 degrees with a breeze, Laura will talk herself into it being too cold to stay outside. The joke between us is that she's like the princess in the Peace story. These things happen often. I am not exaggerating in the slightest when I say that this time, the cut was less than a centimeter wide and 2 millimeters across, just surface level, no larger than a paper cut. Later that night, she remembered the cut and had what I would describe as a meltdown. She said her finger pain was throbbing. She was feeling nauseous from the pain, and it was becoming too much. I offered to clean it with hydrogen peroxide, but she said it would hurt too much. I said it bubbles but doesn't burn like alcohol, and you need to clean it if you cut it on gym equipment because it's dirty. As soon as I put a few drops of hydrogen peroxide on it, she collapsed to her knees and said she couldn't continue. I admit I got a little upset at the theatrics, but it was nothing new at this point. Then, after I rinsed the wound in the sink, she was still on her knees, crying. I told her I was going to go get Neosporin in a Band-Aid, to which she begged me not to add Neosporin because it would hurt. I explained to Laura that Neosporin would cause no pain and even add potential relief. She yelled when I put it on and nearly fainted. At this point, I was a little upset and potentially the idiot. I tried to explain to Laura that her body was very resilient and that she was a tough person because I've seen it in our workouts and the way she can work through brutal work challenges and environments. However, she needs to work on her psychological hang-up on discomfort like this. We want to have kids in the next 2 years, and in all honesty, I don't think she can handle childbirth right now. I've said it's something we can work on together, but to start, she needs to get serious and adopt the mentality that her body can handle a lot. I told her it's upsetting that she seems to just give up and surrender to any pain. Like she has no will to shake it off. What example would we be setting for our child? What would happen if you were injured and needed to get help without me? We ended up getting into an argument about this. I feel like an idiot, but I don't know how I could have approached this differently. There are neurological conditions that would explain your wife's seemingly extreme reaction to sensations the rest of us would consider non-painful. If you haven't explored those with a specialist, maybe it's time. I think asking her to shake it off, if you haven't discussed it with the doctor, would make you the idiot. Your wife is experiencing extreme distress. Take her seriously. She could also have a genetic, mental, or cognitive condition that could be passed to children. She must see medical professionals about this so that if she does have something going on medically, it can be diagnosed and, if needed, start treatment. If she is diagnosed, they should find out if it's hereditary. Please don't bring a paper cut to the ER. We're already busting at the seams with dumb complaints. These comments are wild. As a woman who's been repeatedly and extensively dismissed for lifelong problems in the past, I appreciate everyone pointing to possible neurological type disorders that affect pain. But you guys are missing the key point here. She didn't cut herself and immediately experience terrible, overwhelming, excessive agony. No, she cut herself in the morning and then at night she remembered the cut and proceeded to have a meltdown. I'm not a doctor, but personally, I don't know of any pain disorder that lies in waiting for 10+ hours, assuming, and then ignites only when noticing the injury again. Going to another physician is not the answer here, man. Not the idiot. Since you really love her and seem willing to tolerate this, I hope the best for you. But this made me feel impatient just reading it. The Neosporin bit particularly got me. Omeprazole. It's my go-to for any injury, not just because of the antibiotic properties, but because it's a topical pain reliever, for crying out loud. My ex and I had our first child when we were 26. We met at a bar celebrating our 21st birthday. We were literally the exact same age. She changed. Being a mom became her only identity. Our second child, when we were 28, compounded this. She was a mom, not a wife, and not even herself. Not the woman I met, fell in love with, and married. All she wanted to do was kid stuff. Kid movies, kid TV, kid books, everything. If I wanted to drop the kids off and take her to the farmer's market, she would say that the kids loved the farmer's market and we had to take them. They were toddlers. They did not love the farmer's market. If anything, the older one loved the mini donuts, and she couldn't stand to hear them cry, so she let them sleep with us constantly. When I put my foot down, she would start crying about how mean I was. When the kids finally outgrew that, she would let them come into our room without knocking. So intimacy was interesting. I put a lock on the bedroom door. She took it off. We went for counseling, and then she went for counseling. Nothing ever changed. She said it would be different when the kids were older, but it never changed. I left when the kids were tweens. I had planned and paid for a trip for our 15th anniversary. We were going to Thailand, as we had always planned when we were younger. She changed the plans. She canceled, with her parents watching the kids, so we went to Disney World as a family. We had been there years before, and the kids loved it so much. I lasted another 6 months, then I left. I pay child support, and I pay spousal support. I'm there for the kids all the time. I enjoy my custody time. I go to their extracurriculars on the days I don't have them. I have rooms for them in my house. I met someone new a year later, and we got married a year after that. We had our first child 2 years after that. She's an excellent stepmom, and the kids are polite and friendly towards her. They were grown up and had a mom, so she's more of a trusted adult. The kids are young and mid-teens now, and they're sick of mom's attention. They're spending more and more of their time at my house. Here, they understand what privacy and personal space mean. My ex is lonely. She's devoted her life to her kids and expected them to be around her forever. I guess she's dated other men, but she refuses to prioritize them over the kids. For example, one guy lasted 6 months. He wanted to take her away for the weekend, but she couldn't because the younger one had a soccer game. It was my weekend, and the guy had checked with me to ensure I would be attending and not just leaving the kid at the field. I was, so she refused to go and showed up at the game without him. That was the last I saw of him. She's getting angry and bitter that I left her alone to start a new family with my child bride. My wife was 30 when I met her, and I was 38. I wasn't exactly robbing the cradle. I told her that she wanted that life. I gave her every opportunity to be my partner, and she said she'd rather be a mom. She said that wasn't true. I asked her to prove me wrong, to tell me when she put our relationship above the slightest inconvenience to our kids. She couldn't do it. I reminded her that she passed up a weekend with her boyfriend to go to a soccer game. She said it was important. I said that adult relationships are also important. My wife thinks that I was harsh but fair. However, our child sleeps through the night in her nursery, not the idiot as a child of a woman like your ex. I got to see firsthand what her decision to never leave my side to do anything with my dad alone did to their marriage. It was horrible and hurt him so profoundly. It was also incredibly suffocating for me, and I resented the heck out of being the whole beginning and end of her world. It's great that your kids can see and appreciate the difference in lifestyles and choose to spend more time with you. She will be in a world of serious hurt if she doesn't learn and refuses to back off of them once they're ready to fly the nest. My friend's mom is like that. They're now 51 and 46. The older still lives at home. I convinced the younger one to move out and try life. She moved out in secret and then told her mom. Both kids' bank accounts are tied to mom. She refuses to work so she can be on hand for her adult children. They're both stunted in maturity, being around people she had homeschooled them their whole life. But it wasn't the kind where they met other homeschooled kids. They were kept isolated. Dad left too because he couldn't handle it anymore. It's sad when this happens. I firmly believe that as kids grow, my relationship with my husband is more important than ever. They will leave one day, and I don't want to look at him and be like, "Who the heck are you?" I'm just glad that, in OP's case, the kids had a place to escape to, a haven from her constantly overbearing presence. A place they could discover who they were without her. My sister and her family lost their family home in a house fire 3 weeks ago. It happened in the middle of the night, and they initially stayed with our parents for one night. But our parents have a 1-bedroom house, and space was not optimal. So they asked if they could stay with my wife and me and our kids. We said no. We said no for mostly one reason, but kind of two for about 2.5 to 3 years now. My sister has been so tough on my wife regarding how she and we feed our kids. She focuses on my wife far more than me, but it does come back on me too. We don't keep sugar or junk food from our kids. We don't deprive them of that. We keep things balanced. We make veggie pancakes, we make healthier pizzas, and we allow snacks like chocolate, ice cream, or cake. We offer our kids sauces, and not all of them are homemade, but some are. My sister is so judgmental about it. She didn't let any of her kids have any kind of junk or snacks until they reached school, and they could only eat something like chocolate at birthday parties. They limit the number of those they can attend in close proximity, so they don't get 2 days of junk food in a week or more than 3 days of junk food a month. My sister or her husband will also stay at the parties, even ones the tween is invited to make sure they go for the salad over the pizza. If they have the chips and candies, my sister acts like our kids eating a chocolate treat or a few chips is the end of the world. She was especially horrified to find out we gave our kids fries with tacos one night, and then another night, we gave chicken bites with potato cakes, not plain chicken. Once the potato cakes were involved, veggies were included both times, but the idea of 2 less clean foods horrified her. My sister-in-law, my wife's sister, is a pediatric dietitian, and she loves how we feed our kids. She told my sister that once, and my sister was horrified by my sister-in-law's profession. This has all become such a problem that it's become my sister disrespecting my wife, so we see her far less. I don't like that we used to be close, but I won't allow her to crap all over my wife over a difference in how we see things. Oh, And she doesn't always like that our kids get bread with soup. So, when my sister asked if they could stay with us, I said no. She told me they really wanted to stay with family instead of some hotel or a strange rental, and I told her they would all be happier there. When she's so bothered by the food my wife and I feed our kids, but I also wasn't going to let her stay and disrespect my wife in our home. My sister's been furious with me since then. She told me I took things way too far. I told her she's been going way too far for almost 3 years now. Am I the idiot? Oh my God. You give your kids bread with soup? Call CPS. Absolutely not the idiot. Your lives would be miserable if your sister moved in. Good for you for standing up for your wife and kids. She would give your kids eating disorders if she lived with you. Your sister is a control freak, and it's far better that she stays in an environment where she can do her control freak thing. Your home is not the place for that. I can just imagine how she'd start dictating what you're feeding your kids because she doesn't want her kids to have to watch your kids get goodies. Then she would have to move to eat in a different location at different times of the day so that her kids wouldn't see or smell it or whatever. At that point, she might as well be living in a different environment anyway, right? Her maybe sort of weird food choices have nothing to do with it. You cannot house a family indefinitely. Their insurance should be covering this. If she and your mom and dad all want her and her family to be homeless, then that does suck. But you aren't a free house. I believe in the saying, you made your bed, and now you can sleep in it. Your sister must now accept the unpleasant results of what she's done over the past few years. This might teach her going forward to keep her opinion to herself and be kinder to people.